outside world, like yoga means mostly to do with your physical body, could be to improve your flexibility of performing certain asanas, certain breathing techniques, pranayama, certain postures. Someone might be practicing certain stretching techniques, certain techniques to improve their blood circulation, their concentration, their memory. So all this is body related to our body, and as we know in previous chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has introduced the concept of body, which is different from the soul. So body is separate, soul is separate. A lot of the yoga that we see outside is more body related, less to do with the soul. And the goal is, like I said, to improve all your bodily functions, right? So people are desperately trying to look younger, to lose weight. They're going to these different yoga studios. Yoga is a massive industry. It's, I think, when I checked up recently, it's worth more than 100 billion. And 300 million people all over the world supposedly practice yoga with the ultimate benefit, the aim in mind of improving their body. But Krishna, as he mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, talks about actually using yoga to connect one's consciousness to the divine. So that's the ultimate purpose of the yoga, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, there are all these bodily benefits which are more as a byproduct of the yoga that's mentioned in the Gita, but that's not the ultimate goal. So the word yoga is very, very important. It comes from the Sanskrit word yuj. Yuj meaning to connect or link. And in yoga, we actually aim to link our consciousness with that of the divine, the absolute truth. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna specifically mentions 4 kinds of yoga. He uses the example of a yoga ladder, starting from karma yoga, the yoga of prescribed duties, and then that's how you connect your consciousness through prescribed duties with the Lord. The yoga of Jnana Yoga, knowledge, gathering knowledge about spirituality, reading lots of books, mental speculation, and that way you gather knowledge about the absolute truth and connect your consciousness with the Lord. The yoga of Jnana Yoga, yoga of meditation, where you meditate internally and identify the Paramatma within you, within your heart, and that way you still realize, get the Paramatma realization. And finally, the Bhakti Yoga. The Bhakti Yoga is all about devotional services, hearing, chanting, doing different activities to please the Lord, and that's how you develop a direct relationship, a direct connection with the Lord. So all these 4 yoga processes are mentioned, and I'll just go through that in a bit, just to give you a good overview of what these yogas techniques are all about. And ultimately, we can then analyze and see where we stand in the yoga ladder. Like, where is our consciousness right now? And probably we can also look at where it needs to be, how we can actually go higher in the yoga ladder and progress along this journey. So, let's start with the very, very basic, right? So, even before we enter the yoga ladder, there are a lot of people who haven't even put their first step. So, these are the people who do not really believe in scriptures, do not believe in any rules and regulations, do not believe in any modes of worship, or do not even believe there's a supreme controller sitting on top of all of us. So these people are, as mentioned in different Puranas, they are no different than animals, because they perform exactly the same activities that animals perform. And what are those activities? There's 4 basic activities. Ahara, Nidra, Bhayamaindu, Namcha. So there's 4 activities. Ahara, eating. Nidra, sleeping. Bhaya is defending yourself. Maithunam is union or mating. So eating, sleeping, defending, and mating are the 4 common activities that human beings perform as well as animals perform. So all living beings perform these activities. A human being who does not perform anything else apart from these 4 activities is no different than an animal. That's animalistic behavior. Someone might say, oh, they perform it in a more polished way. So animals probably eat some raw food or food on the road or wherever, and we eat with our plates. We go to restaurants, we eat all sorts of fancy food, but the basic function is eating. I mean, how much can you eat? You can be earning $10 million or you can be earning 10,000 a year, but there's only so much anyone can actually eat. You can earn all you like, but everybody has been given only a finite capacity to enjoy. Similarly with sleeping, animals sleep. They probably sleep wherever they make their home. Mother Nature has given them different homes to live in. We obviously also have our own homes, which is man-made. So we do live in. Someone might live in a mansion, someone might live in a hut. But basically, the home is used as a mode to take some rest and sleep. Eating, sleeping, defending. Okay, defending is a very interesting thing, right? So animals defend when they're attacked. So most animals defend when they're attacked. That's a basic instinct of any living being. Human beings also defend when they're attacked, but they also defend when they're not attacked. So let's take the example of, let's take Australia, right? It's relatively stable. So far, there's no immediate threat from any country. We are so much into defensive mode that there's all sorts of video games and PS3 games, consoles coming up where there's all these so-called virtual threats that are being gamified, and then people are out there to shoot people and then defend. So there's that defensive instinct is still very much there within us. We want to fulfill that, if not in practice, virtually through these video games. And then mating, of course, it's performed by animals, it's performed by us. Animals perform it for a certain season mostly, for a certain reason mostly, in seasons to breed, to increase their population. Human beings just sleep, there's no regulation. So we sleep whenever we feel like. Animals sleep only when they're tired. We eat whenever we feel like, whatever we like, as much as we can hold. Animals eat only when they're hungry, and they don't have this quality of hoarding more and more food. Again, we defend whenever we want to actually bring out our defensive instincts and indulge in enjoyment. Or sometimes there's people who also even go game hunting. They shoot ducks, they shoot birds, they shoot all kinds of animals. Animals only go out if they're attacked. If somebody is threat to their life, they defend themselves. And of course, mating, animals, although they might have multiple partners, there's a certain reason for mating. We do it whenever we feel like. So in certain aspects, human beings who are having these animalistic instincts only are far worse than animals, as I proved. So that's really at the bottom of the ladder. They're not even anywhere close to yoga. So that's people who are very animalistic. Beyond that is a class of people who follow a more regulated sense enjoyment method. So they want to enjoy, but they also want to follow all the rules and regulations. Because one thing is clear in their minds, that if I do good, I will be rewarded. If I do bad, I will be punished. So that thing is clear, very much clear. So they will try and read some scriptures, they will try and get some understanding, but it's all to do with sense enjoyment. How can I enjoy more? So they'll keep scanning and see how can I enjoy more. And by that I mean they perform different rituals, so different yajnas, different rituals they perform. Some people might keep a fast on certain days, some people might light some oil lamps on certain days to please some planetary gods. So there's so many gods who have been designated as heads of certain divisions, you could say. For example, Varuna will give you good water and good agriculture. Surya will give you good health. Lakshmi Devi will give you lot of wealth. So they don't have any sort of attachment or love for such demigods, Devi Devtas, right? So there's no bonding or affection. It's all because they're going to get something out of it. So they perform such sacrifices, rituals, they'll keep some fasts, and basically they'll try and organize their life so that there is little bit of spirituality, so-called spirituality, but it's all basically to amass more and more wealth. But what is the use of such wealth? It's all temporary. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's written, chapter 8, verse 16. Brahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mam upedyatu kaunteya punar janmana vidyati. So what does it mean? Even from the lowest planets to the topmost planets, the lowest planets, there are 7 planets underneath Earth. So Patala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatal, there are so many planets. Patala is the bottommost. Then as you go up, you have Swargalok, Golalok, Mahalok, Patalok, Brahmalok, which is the topmost planet. Brahma, Bhuvana, Loka, Punaravartino, Arjuna. So right from the topmost planet to the bottommost planet, this entire material world comprising of all the higher planetary systems as well as all the lower planetary systems are places of misery, repeated birth and death take place. We are born, we grow up, we fall ill, we die one day. So these places are constantly like Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. So we are born and we die in all these planets. There is no eternal life. So what happens to such people? So they might go up to a very high level, even Brahmaloka, but ultimately they've got to fall down if they do not perform any spiritual activities in the true sense of the word. There is no selfless service given to the Lord. If they're only after material benefits and perform all these yajnas and rituals, they can go up to Brahmaloka. Ultimately their journey will still come downwards. So such activities are mentioned in a specific section of the Vedas, which is called as Karma Kanda sections. If you go through Rig Veda and Atharvaveda, I think there's certain sections which talk about all these ritualistic activities. And what is the purpose of the Vedas mentioning all these ritualistic activities? Is basically so that to elevate somebody from an animalistic nature to a more regulated nature. So it's one step above in the ladder, but that doesn't mean somebody thinks that this is the ultimate and only engages in all kinds of rituals. And these rituals are often done out of fear of some demigod, some planet, some Shani dosha, something or the other. There's no real love, there's no bhakti. So that talks about karma kanda, which is, so I spoke about animalistic rituals, animalistic behavior, I spoke about karma kanda. So we've not yet entered the realm of yoga yet, so I've already covered, we're just at the base right now. So the next step is, ultimately, somebody who's doing this gets frustrated. If not in this birth, they will follow this for multiple births. They'll get frustrated of going to a 5-star. It's like going to a 5-star hotel, again coming back to Islam, again going to a 5-star hotel, coming back to Islam. Repeated birth and death with no end in sight. Then they want liberation, they want mukti. The first step then is to enter into the basic yoga, which is karma yoga. So Krishna has described karma yoga very, very beautifully and very, very elaborately in chapter 1 to 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. So karma yoga is yoga dedicating your work to Krishna and deriving some fruits out of it. So there's 2 levels in the karma yoga section. There is a level called as Sakam Karma Yoga, where people work and they gain some fruits out of it, but then they give some fruits back to the Lord by either performing some actual physical service. So there's a lot of people who perform temple service, there's a lot of people who sometimes give donations, help out in festivals, so that's performing work in service of the Lord. But they still want to continue enjoying in the material world because they've got family constraints, they've got kids to look after, so they still want some benefits, if not for themselves, at least for their families, so that they can live a balanced life. That is Sakam Karma Yoga. Above that there is the Nishkam Karma Yoga, which Lord Krishna asks Arjuna to follow. So Nishkam Karma Yoga is when you dedicate all the fruits of your action to the Lord and you don't expect anything in return. So you're constantly working as per the guidance of the Lord, without expecting anything in return. So there's many technical ways to explain this. I'll probably give a few examples so that it comes out quite clearly. If I talk about Sakam Karma Yoga, the yoga of doing your prescribed duties and also enjoying the results, Maybe I'll give an example of, let's say somebody, a rich person who comes to the temple. He sees all these wonderful deities that we worship. He sees people performing obeisances to the deities, all the services that we are providing, prasadam service, book distribution, all kinds of courses we are doing, and he feels like serving. He really gets this feeling in his heart that I should also serve the Lord. So he enters into what we call as Sakam Karma Yoga. So he offers to, he knows that we are doing some book distribution, some Sankirtan, and then he says, okay, I've got a business that makes bags. I am happy to give bags to you. I like making bags. I've got a team that does this. He's very much attached to the duty of making bags. But he then tells us that, okay, instead of the standard price of these bags is $35, but I'll sell it to the temple at $20 and you can have it at a discount. So he still wants a little bit of profit, but he's happy to give a portion of it back to the temple. So that is called Sakam Karma Yoga, where you still want to enjoy a portion of the fruits of your labor, but you're happy to give some portion away in the service of the Lord. So that's Sakam Karma Yoga. Another example would be just a very crude example. We perform all kinds of services for the temple, right? So let's say somebody is very good at singing kirtans or very good at preaching, right? He's an expert preacher, but he preaches or he performs kirtans so that he gets some recognition in return. Somebody recognizes him, somebody appreciates him, and he feels good about it. It increases his prestige. So that's also the mode of Sakam Karma Yoga. Again, nothing good or bad about it. We're not here to judge people, but you could say that's an example of wanting to do something, but also wanting to get back something in return. It could be to increase your wealth. It could be to enjoy a bit more. It could be to get some appreciation in return. So that's Sakam Karma Yoga. The higher level in the same Karma Yoga section is Nishkam Karma Yoga. So an example here could be, there's an expert cook in the temple. He's an expert in cooking. He cooks, he does a lot of service. He doesn't expect any appreciation or any kind of remuneration in return. He's doing it all for the service of the Lord, entirely dedicating everything. He comes every weekend, he does his cooking, and then he goes away. He worships the Lord and he goes away. So he's doing it in a completely selfless mode. But if he might be asked to do something, so instead of cooking, Prabhuji, today, can you do some cleaning or can you wash the plates? He said, no, I don't want to wash plates. I like cooking a lot. I'll only cook. Somebody else can wash the plates, please. So that is where he's attached so much to his duty that he doesn't want to look at any other ways to serve the Lord. He only wants to cook for the service of the Lord. So that is Nishkam Karma Yoga, where you're not attached to the fruits of your result, but still very much attached to the duty of cooking. You want to cook, you feel like cooking, but you don't feel like doing much more than that because you're so much attached to the karma or the activity of cooking. So that's an example of Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is still higher in the ladder than the Sakam Karma Yoga that I spoke about. So just recapping a little bit, we spoke about animalistic behavior, which is not even human-like behavior. We spoke about karma kand, which is performing rituals, performing different pujas with the sole aim of getting some benefits without any true bhakti. So that is karma kand. Third one is karma yoga. We spoke about Sakam Karma Yoga, which is the first level, and then Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is an elevated level where you perform duty selflessly, although you're still attached to the duty itself. So, as you can see, the consciousness starts starting to get purified, right? We covered 3 steps, and from animalistic behavior, Karma Yoga is like an intermediate step. It's a purifying step, purifying your consciousness for higher modes of yoga and ultimately to reach the Supreme Lord. Karma Yoga by itself has no destination apart from preparing you for what lies ahead. So all these different yogas which I am speaking about and which I shall speak about takes many years of practice. It's not something that it's a 3-year degree course. 3 years I do Karma Yoga, then 2 years I do something else, and 3 years I do something else, and every time I pass an exam and I go through. So there's many years of practice involved, many years of purification involved in all these different modes of yoga. It could be many lifetimes as well, depending on someone's consciousness. So after Karma Yoga, the person then starts to wonder, who is God? Who is the absolute controller? Who am I actually serving? Where is my destination going to be? So this is when he starts to acquire knowledge of who is God. He starts to look at what is matter, what is soul. The way to actually perform proper knowledge gathering is through the mode of Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga is practiced, it's again very bona fide process. It's being practiced by many devotees around the world. The essence of Jnana Yoga is the study of matter and spirit. So what is matter, what is spirit? So for example, these objects here that you see, this laptop, this table, this mic, they're all matter. There is no consciousness amongst them. But we as living beings have a certain consciousness within us which makes us perceive things, which makes us think, which makes us act, which makes us feel. So all these things are signs that there is consciousness, there is a soul within us. So this science of yoga called Jnana Yoga is all about going very deep into the subject of knowledge versus matter. What is knowledge, what is matter, what is spirit, and then gradually detaching yourself from everything that relates to matter. So such people will start to perform lots of austerities. They will want to live in a secluded place, far away from other people, and slowly start to detach themselves from all their material engagements, their family, their job, their any kind of material benefits like wealth, properties, and all of that. So this gradually leads to the more knowledge you acquire, the more detachment you get. So that is the essence of Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is again a very difficult process to follow, because in this age of Kali Yuga, we are having all our own family constraints. We do need to earn money. We do need to look after our family, especially as householders or grihasthas. So it's clearly mentioned in the Gita that Jnana Yoga is not ideal to practice in this day and age, but there's still a lot of practitioners who do practice Jnana Yoga. And what is the ultimate destination of a Jnana Yogi? A Jnana Yogi is someone who wants to merge their soul, who wants to get mukti or liberation by merging themselves into Brahman, Brahma Jyoti or Brahma effulgence. So they consider the absolute truth to be the effulgence of the Lord. So we believe that there is an effulgence and behind that there is an actual Bhagavan. But those who are in the mode of Jnana Yoga believe that their ultimate destination is this Brahman effulgence, which is bright, which is so attractive that they want to go and merge themselves there once and for all and attain moksha or peace. But that is just an incomplete realization of the Lord. There is no love, or there is no devotion, there is no service, there is no activity. It is a very static state. And period of time where anybody can actually merge and stay in that Brahman is very limited. Beyond a certain time, they either have to look upwards to look for further realizations, or they come back to the material world because they still want to serve or perform some activities in some capacity. Take the example of any living being, let's say a human being. If somebody was to offer a very large amount of money, let's say $100,000 for somebody to just stay in one place, not do anything, and just sit for, let's say, 6 months, that person might be willing to accept it and also do it. But it's not realistic to expect him to just stay in one place and just do nothing, right? There is no state of nothingness. It's always got to be some activity that we all like to perform, either with having loving exchanges with our family, either performing some service, either enjoyment or something or the other. There's no way a soul can just remain in a static state, in a state of inactivity. So that is the path of the Jnana Yogi. It leads to the Brahma Jyoti. And there are many people who quote Shankaracharya, right? They quote Adi Shankara, right? So Adi Shankara was a very famous proponent of the Advaita philosophy, that we are all one, we merge with the Supreme Absolute Truth. There is no form of the Lord, it is just a beam of light. However, Adi Shankara also, towards the end, he wrote this very beautiful poem. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. He's saying, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, oh fools, because don't get stuck up in the intricacies of knowledge or grammar, otherwise you will always be seeking. There's no end to it. If you want to find your destination, accept Govinda as your Supreme Lord. So it's very important, right? So let's take another very crude example, right? So somebody has, let's say this is a very serious illness, right? Let's say they've got COVID, very serious case of COVID, and the doctor says, you should have been vaccinated, but now I will vaccinate you so that next time you don't get COVID. Now you're recovering, I'll vaccinate you. This person says, oh no, don't vaccinate me. I want to first find every single ingredient that you are using, every single chemical compound you're using. I want to have the knowledge of how these chemicals react with each other and how they destroy the COVID virus. Until such time, I will not believe in what you're saying. I will not believe that this medicine or this antivirus actually works. And they will keep on searching, and what will happen? They will again get COVID, and there's no way to stop them from falling in. So, what is actually mentioned by Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita is that Krishna himself is coming and saying, Aham sarvasya prabhu mata sarvam pravatete. I am the source, worship me. Sarva dharma parityaja mam ekam sharanam praja. Leave aside all possibilities, all other modes of worship, and come and worship me. In multiple verses he's saying again and again. But still people have this thought in their mind that Krishna is a metaphor for something which is higher up, something that we don't understand, and we need to now find that something that we don't understand, that complex thing, rather than worship Krishna directly as the supreme controller. So that's their realization. Everybody has their own free will, but that's where this leads to the next stage called Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga obviously leads to the Brahma Jyoti, which is just an interim step. Beyond that, there is something where Jnana Yoga, where you meditate within you. You perform a practice called as Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 stages of yoga. And in this Ashtanga Yoga section is where all these physical bodily processes come as a way to purify yourself. So Ashtanga Yoga starts with Yama, Niyama, do's and don'ts. Then it has Pranayama, Asana. So all these asanas, Pranayama, everything has come from the Patanjali section. And that's where all these modern yoga teachers have borrowed all these teachings and then started their own yoga studios and made it a big industry. But they fail to understand, but the real goal of all of this is to prepare your body so that it's in a good platform to then advance spiritually. And that spiritual journey then translates into dharana, dhyana, finally into samadhi, where you realize the Paramatma within you, in your heart as the super soul. So the Lord Krishna is also sitting within your heart in the Paramatma form, who actually acts as your conscience. He tells you what is right, what is wrong, and he witnesses every single action that you're doing. Whether or not you follow his instructions is a different, is up to your own free will, but there's definitely a Paramatma sitting within all our hearts, within every single living being, not just human beings, every single animal, bird, insects, animal, everything. So that's the second level of realization called Paramatma realization. where again you do realize the Paramatma. You can also have the darshan of Paramatma once you reach the samadhi state, but you still cannot talk to the Paramatma. You cannot establish a relationship with the Paramatma, because the Paramatma is still distant from you. And that takes us finally to Bhakti Yoga, where you establish a direct relationship with the Lord. Prabhupada has compared Bhakti Yoga to other yogas using a very simple analogy. He uses a bottle of honey examples. If you want to taste a bottle of honey, you've got to lick it from outside, like the Jnana Yogis and Dhyana Yogis do from outside. They try to find out through knowledge and dhyana. It's not possible. You can never relish the sweetness of honey. You've got to actually open it and then take a spoon and then actually taste how sweet it is. And that's the sweetness of Bhakti Yoga. It gives you a direct way to serve the Lord through different modes, right? You could chant Hare Krishna, you could hear your own chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam. You could remember the Lord at all times as far as possible. The Lord is said in many, many verses that I am the taste of water, I am the light of the sun, I am the fragrance of earth. So whenever you see all these things, wonderful things happening around you, you can actually feel the presence of the Lord. The Lord doesn't have to be only in the deity form or only in the Paramatma or Brahman form for us to realize it. We can see amongst all of us, we are all part and parcel of the Lord. The Lord has again said, Mamaevam Shur Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are all part and parcels of Him. So if you see any other living being, they are also, it shows the presence of the Lord. It's simple as that. So by following the chanting process, that's why we at ISKCON keep chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. By chanting we purify ourselves, because Lord Krishna himself has said that his name and his actual body, they are non-different. So he has left behind his holy name to us, given us to chant, and that's why we chant Hare Krishna, Mahamantra. We also listen to kirtans, we worship the Lord, we perform devotional services. All these are prescribed devotional methods in Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga, so it's not necessary for someone to go through Karma Kand, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. There is always a way to directly embrace Bhakti Yoga, and it's again up to each individual. If somebody wants to take the staircase instead of an elevator, then there's nobody to stop them. They can take millions and millions of years, they can do their own so-called soul-searching, seeking their own knowledge, finding out through books, through dhyana, through jnana, and then come to Bhakti Yoga. Or you can choose to directly come along the Bhakti Yoga path, which is where ISKCON and all the acharyas amongst ISKCON have prescribed these devotional processes for us. So that's quite important. And finally, what does Krishna say in Shloka, in chapter 6? He says, Yoginam api sarvesham madhyatenam sharatmanam shraddhavan bhajate yomam sameyukta tamomataha. Of all yogis, one with great faith who always abides in me and renders transcendental service in